Everybody, welcome back to the stream. It's been a while. Long story short, I have a herniated disc and I was resting from that. I've been focusing on resting and healing so that I can continue to dance, teach dance, make money, and do all the things that I want to be doing. So I haven't been able to actually sit still for a while. I've been avoiding it, but now I am feeling better. So I'm back. So hello and thank you guys for joining me. So let's get down to it. Welcome to Asian Mental Health Talks. I am Trixie, aka the Thoughtful Beast, and we are doing affirmation cards. They are the inspiration of our talks today. They are an affirmations card from my Golden Goddess affirmations. I'm saying the word affirmation a lot. That's okay. They're cards I made for Asian women. Whoa, this is not the card I was going to talk about. I don't know where it went. Well, oh, there it is. I dropped it. I was like, that's not what I was reading at all. Okay. So today we are talking about this. I accept when I am wrong because that only makes me strong. It rhymes, so it's true. Again, I accept when I am wrong because it only makes me strong. So I wanted to hit on this for mental health in a couple ways for a couple reasons. One, the Asian child in me, it was raised, respect your elders, which a lot of the times ends up translating to you're wrong and whatever they say is right and it doesn't matter, which I think can be really crippling to one's person. I'm sorry, I'm tired. To one's self-esteem and therefore to one's mental health. So this is kind of like looking back as an older person. I accept when I am wrong because it only makes me strong. I think when people refuse to accept that they're wrong or super hyper focus on needing to be right, which is actually how I phrase the topic. That's what this is actually called, Asian mental health, needing to be right. It can really damage relationships you have with people, which therefore affect your mental health. And it also puts you in, it stresses you out, needing to be right all the time or not wanting to be wrong. So you're trying to desperately prove yourself right. Takes a toll. And I am going to circle it back, even though we're talking about childhood and having that respect ingrained in you and that, your parents are always right. Your elders are always right. You have to listen to them. Like what they say matters, and how that obviously messes us up. It makes us doubt ourselves. It's not a great practice. There is that. And also I want to make it relevant to today with like COVID. I'm sorry, if you don't believe that COVID exists right now, like you are ignoring science. And I'm vaccinated. I believe at this point, if you are not being vaccinated because you just don't believe that like that's a thing. One, at least if you're in America, you've been vaccinated for so many things already since childhood. And I know a lot of people when it comes to COVID, when it comes to vaccines, there are people who just don't want to be wrong. So they're just like doubling down. And I've seen people where I'm like, do you even like know what you're talking about anymore? And the way that you're going about needing to be right seems more about you needing to be right than keeping people safe, actually caring about people. The fact that there are people are like, oh, people who take vaccines are sheeples. I'm like, this is about you and you being right rather than about, I think, you actually caring about people and people doing what's right for them and what's healthy for them and what helps them to have like a better life. So I've seen a lot of people just doubling down lately until they catch COVID. So I just kind of want to put that out there. That's a very relevant thing that's happening. Like, being wrong is not the worst thing in the world. It doesn't feel good. No one likes to be wrong like that. No one likes to be wrong. It really goes, and you have to move on to like your attitude about being wrong, right? If you're wrong and you super double down and you just continue to be wrong and don't listen to things and you're just like collecting information that already like proves what you're thinking, confirmation bias, that's not a great way to go. Again, it alienates other people. It's going to hurt you that way. Also, it literally might be hurting you from like scientific fact. So that's a thing. And I think we just need to be more as like a society okay with being wrong. Like, it's okay to be wrong. And I do say this a lot, but it's really important because people do not want to be wrong. And so with COVID, I'm just going to talk about it a little more briefly. Like, I think it's really important. It's really important, I think, to when people at this point, for me, when I'm seeing people being wrong and then they like realize like what's happening and, and they finally are like, okay, yeah, COVID's real. Like, or I need to get a vaccine. I got really sick and I don't want to get sick again. For me not to rub it in their faces, because I don't think that's helpful. Might I want to do it? Yes. But I don't think that's helpful, like, to that person and to like actually society at large. When people like actually have it in themselves and pull it out of themselves to admit when they were wrong, that needs to be like, yes, I'm glad you did that. And that needs to be validated so that it's okay for people to be wrong. It needs to be okay, because then people just become really big butts about it if you don't. So yes, so that's finished that part. And then like going back to being a child, an Asian child, and growing up with this mentality that, you listen to what your elders say, they're going to be right, can really mess you up, right? And that can go with, for example, me. And even to this day, I still have thoughts where I struggle and feel guilty about being an artist, because that was not like the right thing to do. And still having family members, still having like societies, like, tell me like being an artist is dumb and this isn't really helpful. And that I have to know is that's their weakness and it's not mine, right? It's important that we not try to also like encompass and own and ingrain that sort of attitude for ourselves, right? Because I'm getting older. I could just be like, well, I'm the older now. What I say is right, and what you do is wrong. But what like a crappy way to continue the cycle of abuse, right? And the cycle of like oppressing each other and validating each other and making each other feel like crap. So instead, we really want to accept when we're wrong, because it does make us stronger. So that now, I want to go more into the whole needing to be right thing, which I think a lot of people can relate to. I can relate to it. I think for me, needing to be right, especially when I was younger, needing to be right and feeling very aggressive about it. Like, I think about me in high school and being very like morally righteous, super righteous, just overly black and white. Like, I needed, my morals were there and everything was very black and white for me. And I needed things to be right, and I needed people to do things my way. And that for me came from a place of not being heard when I was younger, needing things, certain things to be right, like morality, certain things that I learned, religion and stuff, needing that stuff to be right because I needed something stable to hold on to. And if these things weren't right and I based my life around those things, like that's too much. That's too much to accept, those things are wrong, but that happens. But yeah, it came from that too. And it came from just feeling like I needed to be heard and needed to be validated in some way for many different reasons, like really needing to be validated in certain ways. So I think when you need to be right, and that's something that is like constantly how you go about things, like the most important thing is you needing to be right. For me, as I got older, that became a signal that I need to evaluate what's happening with my life, because it got to the point where I was ruining relationships and not having the kind of relationships I wanted with people. It kept me farther from people. And so I want to talk about how my therapist, when I was in dialectical behavior therapy, my therapist would talk about relationships, interpersonal relationships. That's like one big chunk of skills that we learn. We learn a whole gambit of interpersonal relationship skills. And I don't think this is necessarily in there. I can't be sure, but I know they talked about it a lot. So here's an idea. When you have a relation, when you have a communication with someone, when you're talking to someone, there are 3 different things you need to think about while you're having this conversation to prioritize. One is self-respect, right? Holding your dignity, having self-respect. 2 is your relationship with the person you're talking about. And 3 is the objective, like, right? Like why you are talking to this person. Let's give an example. Maybe it's not the best example, but this is what I got. Like needing to borrow, say I need to borrow my boyfriend's car. I need to borrow Joey's car, right? So my objective is I'm trying to get this car. My relationship is me and Joey, our relationship, and my self-respect is me, like having self-respect and having boundaries and all that. So these are the 3 things that I think about when I'm having a conversation with someone. And it's not like one is more important than the other. It's like you have to decide, like in time, and know what is the purpose when you are addressing people to be effective. So say I really need this car, right? Say I really need to borrow Joey's car because I have this audition, and this audition, like I'm almost like a shoe-in, like I'm a shoe-in, and I've kind of been told this, and it's like a really big job and it's really well paying, and I like my car broke down, so I really need this car for this audition. Right? Let's just put that. So maybe because in that the objective is like the most important thing for me, maybe I push Joey a little more. Like maybe, you know, like if he's saying no, like maybe I'm like, come on, please. And I push it a little more, and I'm giving again more thought to the objective that I really need this. Also, maybe that means like I beg. I'm getting also a little more beggy. So maybe for me, right, I'm taking a little knock to like my own self-respect. The definitions of self-respect and the boundaries for you, like that's up to you. I just want to say that. But yeah, so maybe like because my main objective is to really get this car, I'm going to push it more. I'm going to maybe beg, I'm going to maybe bargain, and I'm really going to try to get this car because that's really what's important. Say my relationship with Joey is the most important thing. Right? So when I'm asking, say he says no, and say he says no because like he has stuff to do too, right? And that could still be in the other situation. Like he has stuff to do, and let's throw in for this specific thing, like say like our relationship has been really rocky as of late. And so maybe when I'm talking to him, actually what's really important to me is that our relationship is good. So if that's the case, maybe I don't push as much. I ask, I do plead my case and say why I really need the car and why it's important. I really listen, and I really make sure that he sets his boundaries and that I really respect that and don't push that. right? Because I really want the relationship to be good. Like that's the most important thing in this communication between us. And now say it's like my self-respect, right? Like that's the most important thing. So say maybe Joey says no to me. I do plead my case very calmly. He says no. And say, for example, he's like, yeah, okay. I don't know if this is a good example, but we're going to go with it. Like say, fine, you can borrow this, but that means you owe me like these 5 favors, and they're like outlandish, right? And I'm just like, no, that's too much. Or say while I'm talking to Joey and asking for this car, he's speaking very rudely to me and he's actually getting mad at me, right? He's getting really mad at me, and maybe I shut this actually conversation down because I'm like, oh, this is not how I want to communicate. This is not how I want to be spoken to. I would not speak to you like this. Maybe this is something else. I'm going to stop this conversation because it's not worth it. Obviously, it's not working right now. I need to protect myself and have my self-respect, and I'll figure out the car thing. So hopefully that's more understandable. But I think it's really important, and it's been really helpful for me to think about those 3 things when I'm talking to people. Because, and going back to needing to be right, some people hold that first. And I don't know. Maybe for some people, needing to be right is always their objective, right? But what if it's not? What if, like, let's say needing to be right is like my self-respect thing, right? Let's say like that's where I put needing to be right for some reason, which I don't think is effective, but let's just say like that's where I'm holding it in this situation. If I'm needing to be right, but I need to and I'm trying to borrow this car from Joey, and he's saying like, no, I need it too. And I'm like, no, like my stuff is more important, da 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 da. And it starts like that, right? Fun, needing to be right, needing to like validate myself and put myself first. So maybe like that's not so great, and it causes an argument. And then maybe it becomes like a petty thing, and he goes like, last time you borrowed my car, you didn't put gas. And I'm like, no, yeah, I did. And he's like, no, you don't. And we get into this really shallow conversation about me needing to really prove that I really did put gas. And it gets heated. And now I'm really not going to get this car, right? And I like destroyed, or maybe like have harmed, not destroyed too far, harmed our relationship. And maybe I'm even though I think being right is me making a boundary, right, and having my self-respect, maybe it's actually having the opposite effect. Where now like Joey doesn't see me in a good way. They see me as argumentative, and I am being argumentative, and I'm building that within myself in a very unfair way, right? Because I need to be right. So I'm approaching things in that sense where I need to be right. And usually when you have that sense of I need to be right, there's also going to be a lot more thought just about you. So that sort of attitude can be damaging. And I think people do that a lot more than they think they do, including me. And I think it's something really to be aware of, because there is a difference. There is a difference between setting your boundaries. There's a difference of really needing to accomplish something and needing to be right all the time. Right? Self-righteousness is not a positive word. It's not a positive descriptor. So those things we need to think about. I accept when I am wrong because it only makes me strong. Being able to have conversations with people and knowing when you do need to be right. Say I'm in a conversation with someone and they're saying some racist, horrible things. I'm going to need to stop them and be like, no, that is wrong. That is inappropriate to say. And that is going to be a hill that I die on. Right? And that's for me. That's me. That's something where I feel like, no, yeah, that's a hill I'm going to die on. I am. But me saying like, oh no, I did fill the car up with gas like the last time, and like needing to die on that hill, I don't know. For me, if I think about it like later on, that seems like something I actually would be like embarrassed about, to be like, why did I just really Like I got into a fight with my boyfriend and I was yelling and I feel so upset and I felt so upset and I still feel upset now. And now I feel ridiculous, and now I have that now. And those aren't things that I want to have in my life. Those aren't reflections or behaviors. No, sorry. Those are not behaviors, not reflections. Those are not behaviors that I want to keep repeating. So I need to think about those things. I accept when I am wrong because it only makes me strong. When I can accept that I am wrong and I stop needing to be right all the time, I think for me, it really opens it up so I can actually listen to what's happening and I can be really mindful about how I'm reaching my objective, how I am treating other people, and how I'm treating myself. Because again, all those three things are important. And like the priority of which one's more important at the times, like they do shift. And hopefully, if I don't need to be right all the time and I'm being more open and can accept when I am wrong, I am doing that balance act more effectively. And in the end, like that's for my own life, right? Like I want my life to be effective. That doesn't mean I want to be right all the time, because that's not necessarily effective. I don't know everything. I don't know about, I don't make vaccines. Like I trust scientists, right? Like I could look at PubMed and stuff and I can check like different studies and stuff, but really that's a lot. And I'm going to trust scientists. I'm going to trust scientists. I'm going to trust like the experts in their fields for whatever it is. I accept when I am wrong because it only makes me strong. AKA needing to be right all the time could ruin you. But like, it's really true. And again, there are times when you really should stand up for what you think is right. And there are times where you should not back down, and where, we need to show that we are right because someone is trying to stomp on us, and we can't let that happen. And I think those things are really I don't know. It's really hard. I always want to like go backwards and make qualifiers, but I also know when I say that too, standing up for yourself doesn't mean that every time someone disagrees with you that you have to super push back. That's not the same. Please know that. When someone doesn't agree with you, or maybe has like some criticism for you that isn't meant as an insult, like that, that doesn't mean you have to push back on them anyways. Like, you're not always right. If you're asking for criticism, if you're asking for help, you need to be open for those words and not take it as a personal attack. Those are like the not needing to be wrong, always needing to be right vibes, right? But if you've asked for help, if you asked for like constructive criticism, if you are talking to your friends and they care about you, why wouldn't you give them the benefit of a doubt? Right? Hopefully you have good friends, and when people say things to you that maybe you don't necessarily want to hear, but it's because they care about you, because they're trying to tell you like, hey, Trixie, I know you're a really passionate person, but the way that you're going about trying to get this car from Joey, it's not very right. You're not treating him right. You kind of look ridiculous. Like, that's something for you to know. Like, it's like you're ruining your relationship. If my friend says that to me, like, that's something that I want to keep in mind. I want to listen to. Knowing that difference, right, is wisdom, and also just really mindfulness, mental health awareness, self-awareness. Those things are really important. So I hope this has been really helpful. I think that's where we're going to stop for today. Oh, my back feels pretty okay. I totally have like a heated rice back thing that I'm wearing right now. I think that's where I'm going to end for today. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate you guys interacting with me and making comments, speaking to me on social media, whether that means my IG or my YouTube. It's been really great. I'm really glad to be back. I'm really glad to be speaking about Asian mental health and representing for Asians, all the Filipinos. And it's okay that we talk about these things. It's important. And we don't always all have to agree, but having these talks will help us get closer to a more effective society and, a more effective culture, like for everyone, but yeah, like ourselves too, in Asian cultures, like a more effective way to pass down traditions that make sense and bring happiness, and do away with other things that can just be left in the past and be history. I think about that a lot. It's like one of my cards, like I only keep traditions that bring joy, not traditions that keep people from it. I've been thinking about this a lot, how the things that we need to keep in their culture are the things that bring us joy and the things that bring us closer together and the things that progress us into the future. And all the other things, all the invalidating each other, all the needing to be right, all the pretending that we're living in the past, all the only living to survive and not looking at our future, you know, when it's available to us, like all that stuff, when we can leave it in the past, that's okay. It's history. Like letting go of traditions, letting go of ways of thinking that don't serve us anymore. You don't have to forget about it, but it doesn't have to be carried forward anymore. Those traditions, those things that were passed down, they don't have to be traditions anymore. They can just be a part of our history. So we always keep it with us, but it does stay in the past. Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you guys. If you want to buy the affirmation cards, my Golden Goddess affirmation cards, you can get them on my website, thethoughtfulbeast.com. I will see you next week, or I will see you tomorrow when I finally talk about CPTSD again. It's happening. 12:30 p.m. PT. Thanks, guys. Bye.